Okay, so we've been to the dark side, we've been to the bad places, we've been to the disasters. What does good look like, and what are the attributes of a high performing team in the matter of safety leadership?
If we go back 20 years ago, I was part of a research program that was where I was collaborating with Dr. Keith Owen in Austin, Texas, and he was working with a number of other academics and researchers with three different clients. And they started out by asking, what are the leadership practices that create high performing teams? And it tied in very, very closely, aligned very strongly with my background in Special Forces and the things that we did that created performance. We were seeing those in the best performing teams. And the fundamental aspect of or the answer to that question, what do leaders do? The first thing we saw was that they recognized that they had an important part to play in creating the performance. That they created the outcome. They were not there just to manage the status quo, that they needed to create something that didn't exist before them. So, and this became the CARES model, the CARES framework that we now use. So the first thing is they created it. The second thing is that they were highly achievement oriented. They recognized that this was business and there was an outcome to be had or to be delivered, and that outcome was a profitable organization and profitable performance. You didn't see the best leaders running around with a big stick, threatening people or offering carrots to people, offering rewards, iPads, and all the other things that the BBS approach to safety and the ABC model of how you manipulate behavior would have us suggest is the way to do things. They didn't do that. They built relationships with their people and they got their people aligned on a common purpose. And then they, through dialogue and through exploring how do we get there, how do we do that, they all arrived at a point where they were committed to the same thing. They focused on primarily three things: autonomy, giving people as much autonomy as that person could handle, given their level of skill and competence, wherever they were at on that curve. The second thing was mastery. They really focused on what do we need to do how do we deliver the best job that we know how? And then the third point was purpose, which tied into the commitment. Are we all committed to the same thing? Are we doing things on purpose? Do we have a purpose, and are we acting on purpose?
I just go back to what Brett said before. It offers a great framework to work within. And if you don't have a framework, what we say is you've got guesswork. So with the framework, you can structure it, and then you can share it with everybody of what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go. What we've also developed is a way of measuring that too. So we can measure that performance.
I was particularly interested that you've developed a range of measures on the leadership practices that make things go well. Can you tell us about those? What are they? And how do you measure them?
Several years ago, we developed a dashboard approach to measure the non-technical skills that leaders have. And just recently, as you're aware, we've partnered with Sysmax, a UK company that measures technical skills and has a similar dashboard approach to being able to help organisations understand where their people sit on their technical skills and competency. What we've done with our dashboard is created a number of measures of non-technical skills. So people's ability to build trust, people's ability to create that shared meaning and common purpose, which eventually evolves or develops into commitment across teams and across the organisation. So leaders that can do that are identified within the dashboard, and leaders that are struggling and the teams that are struggling as a result of that leadership not being there in the way it needs to be shows up in the dashboard as well. So it allows organisations to see where their training budgets really need to be spent and where people need a hand. And I've heard Rod say before that when you understand the dashboard, you can predict where your next incident will come from.
I've heard you both say before that you could turn up to a site and literally, whether it's an onshore base site you drive up to, that you're able to accurately predict what the outcome of those measurements might be.
When you show up to a site, your first indication is how you are greeted, how you are met, the introduction, if there is a briefing that you need to go through, the quality of that briefing, how all that goes. Does the general manager come down and introduce himself, or because he's very proud of what he manages and the team that he leads? That's the first indication, and then you can. The other indication is as soon as you go outside, or as soon as you get there, if you're going to like a site outside anyway, not just a factory or whatever. If you're going to a site, you can normally tell also by the housekeeping. Is there any pride there? Are the guys, and how they are working, and are they walking around sort of shuffling along, taking their time, or do they have a purpose? Are they pleased to be there? Is this really tripping their trigger? Is this something that they want to do? And that be very quickly confirmed by a 15 to 20 minute discussion with these guys. And we do that. We normally try to do it with the leadership in that team, and then you work your way down. And normally, as in a site that you've got that gut feeling is going to be less than ideal, you can normally have that confirmed by the people you are discussing and interviewing as you go down through the ranks. Most of them will, once they build enough trust and you explain to them that you're there not to crucify anybody or hang anybody out to dry, they will normally tell you exactly what's happening. And most of the time that differs, and it can differ greatly from what the leader has just told you. Then you know you've got a problem. On the contrary, when you go to a location and the people are very happy to walk you around, what would you like to see? Not that you can't go here, you can't go that. What would you like to see? Would you like to talk to people? How much time do you have? We can do this, we can do that. We have an open book here. What we'll do, we'll shut the whole thing down so you can address the people and they can talk to you. Whatever you want, we're happy to do that. And anything you can do to help us, we'd be grateful to hear that. So it doesn't take you very long to see which one needs the most work. And again, it's that leadership that creates that operating climate, that either makes it or break it. Sorry, I get a breath there. I got on too much.
It's a great point, Rod. There's another aspect that we see with that too, Bruce, that stands out. And for me, it's very familiar. It's very much like I experienced when I was a troop commander in a SAS squadron. The guys that you're working with, there was two things that really stood out, and that was ownership and pride. They owned what they did, and they were proud of what they were creating. And they were proud about the way they related to each other, the support that they gave and got from each of their colleagues and their teammates. They were very proud of their team and the team environment that they got to work in. And when we go to site, the best performing sites, the best performing teams, you see that it's human nature, and it's in equal measures. And I've seen it with guys that are doing very mundane jobs, but they still have that level of ownership and pride, very, very similar to whether it's a outstanding football team or a sporting team or an elite special forces team. The same aspect, human aspects are there. And when you see the flip side of it, it's not there. The lesser performing teams, they're all blaming other things, and they're blaming the equipment, and they're blaming outside people, and there's very little ownership and no pride.